Alright guys, Jake back. We're at my place today. We're going to be working on that Corvette bumper. If you saw in the first video, the bumper itself was pretty screwed up. The side was torn up. In fact, there it is right there. So we're going to be fixing that today. So I'm going to go ahead and start the initial repair to it. It's not going to be a complete until we get it hung on the car. I definitely don't want to repair it, think it looks good, put it on the car, and then it doesn't line up at all. So we're going to start some of the plastic repair today. You can see the tab right here is completely missing off of the car itself. So it's got a pretty good wallop right through the center here. Got to heat that up, get it shaped back around. So, and then you can see the bottom's cracked pretty good. Got a lot of distortion here, but we're going to try to save it. So I've done some plastic repair in the past, built some custom bumpers, but let's go ahead and get started, get to work, and see where we get. All right, so step one here, guys, with the plastic sitting the way it is, I want to take the stress out of it. So I've got my heat gun out here. I'm going to go ahead and warm the plastic up and then clamp it into place. So that way it kind of retains that shape. Plastic typically has a memory. Once it's molded, you put it together, it stays that way. So once it's twisted left like that, it'll stay that way. But as soon as you start heating it, this should start coming around back into it. Then we'll fix these cracks, reattach that tab. Hopefully this works out. So definitely looking forward to it. I haven't done some good plastic repair in a while, but I'll keep you posted every step of the way. Alright, as you can see, we pretty much got our shape to it. Just a couple minutes worth of heat gun work. We have to rebuild that tab, reattach that. So, not a huge deal, pretty easy actually. But you can see that the shape is pretty well there. I've got that held in place for the time being, just so I can check the shape. We've got this shaped up pretty well. We got this. The biggest thing is you want to make sure the backside here is support where you need it. So, definitely. As far as the outside, cosmetics, the shape's definitely getting there. So we've got a hole here, which once we do our backer on the backside, it's not going to play that much. And then of course, our stress cracks inside, you can see them, they kind of look like spider webs on there. So they're just about everywhere. So that's a corner we got to rebuild. But miracles of modern plastic repair and epoxy, that is not a big deal. The other thing we've got to do is make sure this comes back down before we do it. There's a couple different methods you could use. You can hot staple it, you could use a nitrogen welder, but we rely on backer and epoxy. I've had good luck with it, so it's not how everybody does it, but that's how we're going to handle it here. So I've had luck with it. I've actually done a few custom bumpers and never had them fail or crack. So epoxy, not going to let me down. But again, there are many ways to do it. Nitrogen welder, hot stapler, plastic welder. It's all in what you're accustomed to. So biggest thing first, you got to get the back area cleaned, get that wiped off. You want it dirt and dust free before you start grinding on it, because if you were to grind on it with a bunch of dirt in there, you'll actually grind and shove those pieces of dirt into your grinding marks. You definitely don't want to do that. Then you'll play heck trying to get them out. So from here, I'm going to wipe the inside down with a prep saw, and then we'll start grinding on it. At that point, we'll wipe it down again and then apply a plastic adhesion promoter before we go any further. Let that cure. That'll actually soak in, soften the plastic a little bit, and we'll put our adhesive on, our backer, and then smear it. and then let it sit. So biggest thing is patience with doing a bumper repair like it. It's gonna take us a little while, but let's stop talking. You've heard me run my mouth enough. Let's get to work. Alright, here's a quick tip. At the end of your crack, to keep that from spreading even after you've repaired it, take a drill a small hole into it. What that does is create a round surface, not a sharp one, so it won't continue to crack. Anywhere you have a crack, drill a hole in the very end, and again, that will keep it from spreading any further. Our fiberglass mat, ready to go. What I'm using here is a product from 3M. This 3M's 4240 adhesive. This is a backside reinforcement, tab restoration, and a universal plastic bonder. Semi-rigid, that'll allow it to stay flexible. This stuff does dry pretty quick. 50-second work time, 15-minute sand, and 1 hour cure. So definitely it's fast. So make sure if you do use this, get a couple more tips. It comes with one in the bag, but I would suggest 4 or 5. Alright, well, it doesn't look that pretty right now. That dried way too fast on me. Still got to get that tab attached. That's actually what holds the lower cover to the bumper itself. You can see in there is the actual fiberglass mesh. Use that as opposed to just going blind or using anything else, solely because it acts like rebar in concrete. So it gives it structure, helps hold it together, and once you get that in there, this would act as the resin in normal fiberglass. You can actually see that that's pretty well dry already. Not dry enough to start shaping on or cutting, but dry enough that it's going to hold it together. But that, whew, we got to redo that. So I'm going to shave that part back down, and we're going to get that redone. So just because it's a little bulky, it's a little big, so the glue started drying on me a little too fast. All right, the tab repair and replacement is a little different animal because that was completely tore off. So we've got it set in place. We've got everything prepped, cleaned, adhesion promoter, and we've got our fiberglass mat cut. Again, that'll act as the rebar for it. On the other side, tape. The tape itself is actually holding it in place. Don't be afraid to use it. Masking tape on this is your friend. It will hold it from the outside, so that way you can do your backer on the inside. So as far as the holes that are in there, I am actually going to be filling these in and re-drilling from the outside once it's all nice and tight, tough, and repaired. And once we get this in place, everything finishes curing in terms of the cracks. We'll start the outside repair, and I'll use the same method. I'll grind this down level because now we have the thickness on the back, and basically what's called V'ing it out. You take the crack and you want to form a rivet with the glue. So you take the crack itself and you open it up, grind it. You could use a burr bit, anything like that, but you open it up to a valley, and at that point you can get in there and prep the backside, so you have not only backside but then you have front side. It's referred to as frontside dishing. So we're going to do the same thing here. You can actually see where the epoxy leaked through the hole, which is exactly what we wanted it to do. That'll fills that hole and supports it from the backside. We've got it right there as well. We'll go ahead and grind this flat, get the general shape, and put another coat of our adhesive on there. And at that point, we can start sanding that down, probably a little 80 grit, and get it, get some bumper filler on there. We don't want anything thick though, because that will crack. So let's get that glued on though. All right, with the bumper flipped over, you can see what we're working with. It is far from being done, but we got the back reinforced, so at this point, got our cracks taken care of. We can start working on them from the front. Again, we dish them out, form a rivet with our epoxy. And it's been about an hour or so since we did the back, and it's an hour full cure. So I'm gonna go ahead and start grinding this down, getting the shape out of it, V'ing it out so we can get a coat of our adhesive on the front, form our rivet. So, but tabs in place, tape's gone. Everything seems to be doing pretty well. Whoa, watch that. It's on the right track. Far from civilized duty, but we're almost there. Alright, so we got the front side pretty much shaped the way we want it, and you can see the lines in here. That is my front side dishing. Basically what that does is go down to the epoxy that's on the back side so we can form a rivet. It basically, you got it on the back, through the crack, and then on the top. Almost like an eye, again, or like a rivet. Tape here on the edge, again, tape is your friend when you're doing this. We're only trying to worry about the construction and the rigidity of it right now. We're not really doing any of our finish work, so I'm not too concerned with the edges just yet. I've also got it down in the groove where the trim fits too. I just don't want to be picking adhesive and trying to sand it out of there later on. Grinding on it, we do have a pretty good shape to it already. It's starting to look good. Definitely a doable bumper. But from here, I'm going to go ahead and get this cleaned off, apply an adhesion promoter, epoxy spread on there, use it as a filler for the meantime. And then once that's fully dry, I'm going to get that sanded down. So let's get that on there and we'll wrap up for the night. Got it pretty well repaired in terms of the structure of it. Now we haven't done any of the finish work yet. All of this on top is just to make sure that it doesn't crack in the future. It stays put where it is. So it's a pretty expensive bumper and it looks like we're going to be able to save it. So, and I say we because I'm working on this, as you remember, with Matt down at Hustleworks. I'll put his information, he's got his own channel, his information down in the description. Go check it out. It's got a home built Supra, 20 some episodes on it. I did a Porsche out of his shop as well. So mainly we're working down at his place with it. But I wanted to show you how to do an actual bumper repair. You'll be able to see the finished work coming up in the future. Test fit, make sure that it's going to fit on the car. All right, guys. Well, if you're still watching, we are that much closer to getting this bumper taken care of. We've got our epoxy on the outside, cured, ready to go. We've already done a few test spots on it, just see how it's going to come out. Make sure we had good adhesion. Everything's looking good. But we brought it in a big shop today. Got to use a compressor here. Mine at home won't run a DA long enough to. So we'll get this sanded down, see what we're working with. Hopefully be ready for a top coat. So keep watching. Well, if the objective was to make it look like a dairy cow, we succeeded. So you can see right through here where the crack was. This is our front side dishing. But now that we got our general shape, we got our strength there, I can go ahead and take this thing apart. Left them together so it wasn't flopping around on me. But from here, we're We can finish shaping that edge down there. You see I got a clamp on it. We'll draw our holes first, and then we'll get that edge shaped and get some plastic on this thing and see what we're working with. All right guys, well we're almost there. We've got our Evercoat flexible filler on, and this basically just fill in any inconsistencies, any spots that I didn't want to keep heating, getting this bumper stretched out of shape. So we'll also fill in the tool marks for sanding and grinding on it. But we're one step closer, so we'll get this sanded down, see what we're working with. Probably going to have to do a second coat in a couple areas, and we can get this thing ready for primer. It's pretty easy to do a bumper repair, just got to know what products to use. So, and I'll list everything in the description down below. That way, if you want to try and do this at home, it's pretty easy. It just takes patience and some time. So, but it's not too bad. We're looking good. Alright guys, well there you go. One saved 2017 Corvette bumper. Glad I was able to save it. Turned out pretty darn good. So got probably about 6 to 8 hours worth of man time in it all together, between letting the adhesives dry, letting primer dry and so forth as well. So not too bad. Something you could probably do in a weekend if you get a fast cure adhesive. But hope you learned a little something, and if you try it at home, definitely, you got any questions, hit me up. Otherwise, like, subscribe. We're going to keep working on the Vette, and we'll see you on the next episode.